pros and cons of virtualization, where I will explain you to advantages of virtualization in detail, and what are disadvantages of virtualization. So let's start. First we will look at virtualization pros. First one is resource optimization. Virtualization can help maximize hardware utilization by allowing multiple virtual machines to run on a single physical server. Understand there. Resource optimization. Resource optimization is one of the main benefits of virtualization. By virtualizing hardware resources such as CPU, memory, and storage, virtualization allows multiple virtual machines, VMs, to share the physical resources of a host machine. This means that physical hardware resources can be more efficiently utilized, and the overall resource utilization of a data center can be increased. For example, if a physical server is only utilizing 20% of its CPU capacity, the remaining 80% is going to waste. By running multiple VMs on the same physical server, the CPU capacity can be no better utilized, resulting in a higher overall resource utilization. This also leads to cost savings, as fewer physical servers are needed to run the same number of workloads. Additionally, virtualization can also allow for dynamic allocation of resources to VMs based on their current workload demands. This means that VMs can be given more resources when they need it and less when they don't, resulting in more efficient use of resources and better performance overall. Now let's look at second pro. Cost savings. By consolidating multiple virtual machines onto a single physical server, organizations can save money on hardware, power, and cooling costs. Now let's understand cost savings. One of the main advantages of virtualization is cost savings. By consolidating multiple virtual machines onto a single physical server, organizations can reduce the number of physical servers needed, which can result in significant cost savings in terms of hardware, power, cooling, and maintenance. Virtualization can also help reduce software licensing costs, as some software vendors charge based on the number of physical servers running their software. By running multiple virtual machines on a single physical server, organizations can reduce the number of physical servers required to run their applications, potentially reducing the number of software licenses needed. Furthermore, virtualization allows for more efficient use of hardware resources, as virtual machines can be dynamically allocated more or less resources based on workload demands. This can help organizations avoid over-provisioning hardware, which can result in unnecessary costs. Overall, virtualization can help organizations reduce IT costs while increasing efficiency and flexibility. Now let's look at third pro. Improved flexibility. Virtualization allows for easy deployment and migration of virtual machines, making it easier to scale up or down as needed. Now let's understand their improved flexibility. One of the benefits of virtualization is improved flexibility. By abstracting the underlying hardware and providing a virtual environment for applications, virtualization makes it easier to move applications and workloads between different physical servers or cloud environments. This flexibility can be useful in several ways. For example, virtualization can allow for faster provisioning of resources, as virtual machines can be created and deployed more quickly than physical servers. This can be particularly useful in cloud computing environments, where resources need to be provisioned rapidly to meet changing demands. Virtualization also makes it easier to manage and scale resources, as administrators can allocate or reallocate virtual resources, such as CPU, memory, and storage, as needed, without the need for physical reconfiguration. This can help to reduce waste and optimize resource utilization. Overall, improved flexibility through virtualization can help organizations to be more agile and responsive to changing business needs, and can help to reduce costs by improving resource utilization and reducing the need for physical hardware. Now let's look at fourth pro. Increased security. Virtualization provides a layer of isolation between virtual machines, making it harder for malware or other security threats to spread. Now let's understand increased security. Virtualization can also improve security by isolating applications and operating systems in their own virtual environments. Any security issues that arise in one environment are less likely to affect other environments. This can prevent the spread of malware or other security threats from one application or operating system to another. In addition, virtualization allows for easy creation of snapshots and backups, which can be used to quickly restore systems in case of security breaches or other disasters. Furthermore, virtualization can facilitate security testing and auditing by allowing security teams to test and analyze different configurations and scenarios in a safe and controlled virtual environment, without risking damage to production systems. Now let's look at fifth one pro. Simplified management. Virtualization makes it easier to manage and maintain complex IT environments by allowing administrators to manage multiple virtual machines from a single console. Now let's understand simplified management. Simplified management is one of the main benefits of virtualization. By virtualizing servers, storage, and networks, it is possible to manage these resources in a more centralized and efficient manner. Virtualization allows administrators to provision, monitor, and manage virtual resources from a single console, rather than having to deal with multiple physical devices. This can lead to significant time and cost savings, as it simplifies tasks such as software deployment, patching, and upgrades. Instead of manually updating software on each physical device, updates can be applied to virtual machines in a more automated and streamlined fashion. Virtualization can also help with disaster recovery, as it enables the creation of virtual replicas of physical systems that can be quickly and easily restored in the event of a system failure or outage. Overall, the simplified management provided by virtualization can help organizations to increase efficiency, reduce costs, and improve their overall IT operations. Now, we completed pros of the virtualization. Now let's look at cons of the virtualization. First con is overhead. Overhead. Virtualization introduces some overhead due to the need for the virtualization layer to manage the allocation and mapping of resources between virtual machines and the underlying hardware. Now let's understand overhead. One of the main disadvantages of virtualization is overhead. Overhead refers to the additional resources and processing power required to run a virtualized environment. When a physical server is virtualized, the hypervisor layer adds an additional layer of software between the hardware and the guest operating systems. This layer of software can introduce some performance overhead, as it requires additional CPU cycles and memory to operate. This overhead can impact the overall performance of the virtualized environment, and can result in lower performance compared to running the same workload on a non-virtualized system. Additionally, the added complexity of managing a virtualized environment can also result in increased overhead, as more resources may be required for management and monitoring tasks. Now let's see complexity. Complexity. Virtualization can add complexity to IT environments, requiring specialized skills and knowledge to manage effectively. Now let's understand complexity. One of the cons of virtualization is increased complexity. Virtualization introduces an additional layer of abstraction between the hardware and the software, which can make the system more complex and difficult to manage. Virtualization requires specialized software and hardware, as well as trained personnel to manage and troubleshoot issues that may arise. This can increase the cost and complexity of IT operations, especially in large-scale virtualized environments. In addition, virtualization can introduce compatibility issues between the virtualized operating systems and applications and the underlying hardware. This can lead to additional complexity in configuring and maintaining the virtualized environment. Overall, while virtualization can offer many benefits, it is important to carefully consider the potential trade-offs, including increased complexity, before implementing a virtualized environment. Now let's look at thread. Con is dependency on the virtualization layer. Dependency on the virtualization layer. Virtualization introduces a layer of abstraction between the operating system and the hardware, which can create dependencies that can impact performance and reliability. Now we need to understand dependency on the virtualization layer. Dependency on the virtualization layer is a potential disadvantage of virtualization. In a virtualized environment, all the guest operating systems and applications rely on the virtualization layer to access the underlying physical hardware resources. If the virtualization layer experiences any issues, such as software bugs or hardware failures, it can affect the performance and availability of all the guest systems. Additionally, virtualization introduces a new layer of complexity and potential points of failure in the overall IT infrastructure. This can lead to increased maintenance and troubleshooting efforts, as well as the need for specialized skills and knowledge to manage and maintain the virtualized environment. Furthermore, virtualization may require more resources and hardware than a non-virtualized environment to ensure adequate performance and availability of the virtual machines. This can result in increased costs for hardware, licensing, and maintenance. We should move to fourth one. Licensing. So licensing, some software licenses may not allow virtualization, which can limit the flexibility of virtualized environments. Now let's understand licensing. One of the potential disadvantages of virtualization is licensing. Many software applications are licensed based on the number of physical processors or cores in a server, which can create challenges when running multiple virtual machines on a single physical machine. For example, if a company has purchased licenses for an application based on the number of physical processors, they may need to purchase additional licenses to run the same application in a virtualized environment. This can increase the overall cost of software licensing and add complexity to license management. Additionally, some software vendors may have specific licensing policies or restrictions for virtualized environments, which can further complicate licensing for virtualized applications. It's important for organizations to carefully review licensing requirements and policies when considering virtualization, to ensure compliance and avoid unexpected costs. Now let's see the last one. Con. Performance limitations. Virtualization can introduce performance limitations due to resource contention between virtual machines running on the same physical hardware. Let's see what is performance limitation. One of the cons of virtualization is performance limitation. Running multiple virtual machines on a single physical machine requires the sharing of hardware resources such as CPU, memory, and storage. This can lead to reduced performance for individual virtual machines if there is contention for resources. Virtualization adds an additional layer of software between the physical hardware and the virtual machines, which can introduce overhead and affect performance. The virtualization layer must manage the allocation and sharing of resources between the virtual machines, which can also impact performance. In addition, virtual machines may not be able to take full advantage of hardware acceleration features such as graphics processing units, GPUs, which can further impact performance for applications that require intensive graphics processing. Overall, performance limitations can be a significant disadvantage of virtualization, particularly for applications that require high levels of processing power or low latency access to hardware resources. However, advances in virtualization technology and hardware capabilities have helped to mitigate these limitations to some extent. As we covered all pros and cons of their virtualization, so now we will end video.